Real Truth Daily. This is Daily Truths with Dave Ahlman.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Daily Truths. My dad was a very competitive person. I mean, he talked a lot about how successful he was in bowling, how when he was growing up, he was the health champ of the state of Minnesota, how he was the tennis champ of the state of Minnesota. He talked to me a lot about when he was at the seminary being 21st in a class of 121 at Concordia Seminary regarding academic rankings. So that was kind of passed on to me, right? I am a very competitive person. Always have been. I wanted to be the best father, the best husband, the best pastor, the best preacher. Competitiveness is a very real part of my life, and I guess I've passed that on to my kids as well. How competitive are you? Probably pretty competitive. Americans are kind of taught that. It's inculcated in us. It's part of our DNA. As a matter of fact, the NFL playoffs are starting this weekend, and at the end of it, after 3 or 4 weeks and the Super Bowl champion is crowned, they can say, we are the champions, we're the winners. We love winners in America. We love to be the best. But how important is that really to the Lord? Now, I know that the scriptures say, whatever you do, do it with all your might. Ecclesiastes 9:10 tells us that. But ultimately, is that really what matters to God? The disciples were caught up in this stuff as well. They really were competitive. In Matthew chapter 18, verse 1, we read this. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Now, Mark tells us in Mark 9 that they were talking about amongst each other who was the greatest. Can't you imagine what that conversation was like? Can't you imagine Matthew saying, hey, none of you guys had Jesus and even the Pharisees invited to your house, did you? Or Peter saying, well, I'm the one that made that great confession that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. And I got a nod of approval after that. And maybe Peter even said, and you guys didn't go up in the Mount of Transfiguration and see And John saying, no, shh, quiet, because they weren't supposed to say anything. And then John saying, well, I'm the beloved disciple. Can you imagine these conversations? And of course, Mark 9 tells us that Jesus overheard it, but he acted like he didn't really know what they were talking about. And so he said, what are you guys talking about? And they go, nothing. I think it's the same scenario here in Matthew chapter 18, verse 1, where they're talking about who is the greatest. Now, I ask the question, does that really matter to the Lord? Is it that important? Or is there something that's so much greater, so much more important, that has so much value, so much more value in the eyes of God? There is. And I want you to think about today, how competitive are you and how much does it really matter how successful you've been in life, whether it's academically or achievement-wise or athletically or with your job or even with your kids and stuff. I mean, all those things, I guess, from our perspective as Americans is pretty important, but I think God has something much deeper, much richer, much more important in mind in the scriptures. And you might be saying, well, what is that, Pastor Dave? What are you getting at? Where are you going with all this? You'll find out tomorrow. But for today, I want you to really think about how important is it that your competitiveness shines through so much, and maybe a day or two later you think, man, it really wasn't that big a deal. And it wasn't, because there's something that matters so much more to God. And tomorrow, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. And that is today's Daily Truth. Have a great day in Jesus Christ.
Thank you for tuning in to Daily Truths with Dave Ahlman. Pastor Dave Ahlman is the pastor of Mount Hope Church in Boulder, Colorado. If this ministry is blessing you, please consider supporting us by sharing this channel with a friend. You can also like, comment, subscribe, or leave a review. This helps us tremendously. Come back tomorrow for your next Daily Truth.